All right, so let's get into the meaty topic, AI governance. Everyone is talking about AI governance. I love your pendulum slide because I think the AI governance concept comes up sort of resurfaced because everyone wants to deploy AI now. So it's like, well, what about governance? We need to be careful. What does this AI stuff actually do? And then there's kind of the other side who has always been pushing for for governance, probably since the data and dashboard the past 15, 20 years, we've been saying like the data is not ready for even dashboards. And now you want to do machine learning and now you want to do AI. So where do we start with AI governance? Like what are the big risks we should be looking out for, or maybe frame it in the positive? Like what are the opportunities now that we're talking about AI governance?
So I always the main risk with AI governance is that you don't have your governance in place when you're trying to do AI, right? So that's where you're just like a lot of money is going into and a lot of effort is going into, having that perfect model, acquiring that perfect tool to do smart things, but forgetting about the nitty-gritty of the governance kitchen behind it. And that's where I think governance as a yeah as an organization, but also as a set of actions is getting some spotlight again, and it's getting the recognition that it actually needs. Right, in the past years it's been like AI has taken the spotlight there, but that's the main risk, that you're forgetting about the governance. So AI governance brings that back to the table. I think within AI governance, one of the main risks is considering AI programs as being static. Like I just want to start it, and I have this as a goal, and I said that earlier, not stopping and not reevaluating things and not readjusting. And that is one of the basic principles of AI models and learning. So we should learn from that learning process and apply that to our own approach to it, because it's not just, okay, I have 6 months to deliver this. You just need to stop and regroup. That's I think one of the main risks there. Another big risk that I see is basically still the good old siloed buckets. So now it's AI governance is being siloed from the general sort of the enterprise governance efforts. And we still see that, right? We see quite a few of them merging, and the number is increasing, but there's still a bit of I'm in the governance department, you're in the AI governance, we're doing different things.
Hmm.
It doesn't work like that. If you're building an AI model on data that is coming and is being curated and is being, owned by a governance team, you should be talking to those people and you should be building something together. You can't treat them separately. So that's one big risk. What are the opportunities? Because I don't like to talk only about the risks and talking about, what's the risk, what's the opportunity. I think being able to build, like, go from static to adaptive frameworks really prepares you to deal with the unknowns of what AI governance throws at you. So that's, it's either drift, bias, hallucinations, regulations, and everything else. So keeping that, yeah, keeping yourself on your toes when it comes to listening to everything that is happening, being able to adjust, keeping that very adaptive. I think that's key there, and it's a key opportunity. Another opportunity that I see in tackling governance as the foundation and as the enabler of responsible AI, it's really an opportunity to be able to scale. Everybody's talking about scaling AI. How do you move from that POC to actual deployment? But how do you grow that within the organization? Not keep it just as an example, small use case. So, yeah, working from governance to AI governance and AI scaling, I think that's one of the big opportunities that organizations have right now. And the same for trust. So if you're talking about, responsible AI, but also trustworthy AI and systems, you need to have your governance foundation in place there. That would be some of the things that come to mind now. Not sure if that answers your questions, but
Yeah, it's really helpful. I think it's really interesting what you were saying about AI governance becoming the next silo. Like oh, it's not part of the existing enterprise governance team. I've seen this at a couple customers, or it's starting to happen. I mean, are there nuances? So there's a question in the chat from Andres who's talking about, oh, how do AI governance and data governance play together? And I think there was a question submitted prior to the webinar, kind of on the agentic side. I'm always very interested in the nuances between like governing a machine learning model, which is still structured data, which still may make sense to be same underlying structured data that powers dashboards potentially, versus an LLM, which like what if the data team doesn't manage the Google Drive where you're feeding documents to, fine tune or to, like enhance the context of the model versus an agent. Like how do these come under one umbrella or how do we not start creating these like silos for different types of AI?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That it brings me back to the pendulum slide, right? Because I put there in the middle governance slash AI governance. But what often happens is that governance is being pushed on the defensive side of things. So it's seen as, regulatory policies, compliance, we're taking care of that. And then AI governance becomes the sort of the innovation space. We're free to try things out, we're getting out smart things, everything is like sort of magically happening. So there's the dichotomy between, yeah, defensive, offensive type of approach, where I really think that those two come together and that pendulum is moving both in the governance space and AI governance if you're moving into AI programs. So governance becomes AI governance in that sense once you're setting foot on that, unknown space of we're trying to either work with an existing model, we're building out our own, we're trying to optimize some of the processes, where we're trying to understand what AI can mean for us. And I had an interesting conversation recently with one of our customers who was saying there's the famous fear of missing out in the market. We need to do something, we need to have an AI program, we need to have a model, we need to have a co-pilot, but it's not always the case, right? So you need to understand where can AI help me and where I don't actually need it right now, right? So being very realistic and not trying to just move fast with the market, but being very realistic where do I want my investments to go to, what am I willing to risk, what's my risk appetite, but also what are my gains that I'm looking for to get out of this program. So starting with that very down to earth approach to things, it really helps understand that pendulum between, risk and innovation type of conversation. And to your question about agentic, because there's a lot of risks associated with just not setting any boundaries in place, letting the AI model, do its thing, discover all these new things, and also with agents trying to, let them do everything. I think that was the initial conversation around that, and now we're seeing basically every conversation I have about agentic AI inevitably goes to, human in the loop. Where is that needed? How do we introduce that, and what's the purpose? Is it limiting our innovation capabilities, or is it actually safeguarding some and preventing some risks that we don't want to take? So I think the whole agentic conversation, I mean, yes, we can benefit definitely. Like a lot of companies can benefit from using agentic AI right now, but they also need to understand what exactly are they trying to solve for. So what is that agent supposed to do, and how much orchestration do I want, and how much freedom I want to give to the algorithm. So it's a continuous understanding what fits me, like what works for me. And there's no one in the market that can say, well, this is the perfect solution, here it is, you're welcome. This is going to
Yeah.
solve all your problems. So again, having that flexibility from a technology perspective, because that's where you guys are, for example, understanding how you can adjust those controls, I think that's a key to being able to serve different needs on the customer side.